Hello and welcome to Purl and Plume, a mostly knitting podcast. My name is Kelly Carlisle. You can find me on Ravelry, Instagram, and basically that's it, as Kiki Carlisle. And I'm glad to be back. Welcome back if you are a returning viewer, and if you are new, welcome. I have a few finished objects to show you and some works in progress. I went on a trip recently and got some yarn, and I just got some yarn in the mail today, and I've already dyed most of it, so I have a lot to share. Okay, let's get on to finished objects. I am wearing the FELIX sweater by Amy Christophers of Savory Knitting, and what's really funny is I love this sweater. I admired it. But a good friend of mine had started knitting it a few months ago, and I wanted kind of a chunkier sweater to knit. I think this is Aran weight or heavy worsted. She hadn't finished it, so I kind of I challenged her to finish it by the end of January, and I was going to start one. I think it gave me 2 weeks at that time. And she said, well, how about the end of February? So I started mine. I think this took about 2 weeks to knit, and I was working and doing other things at the same time. So here it is, super quick knit. I held mine double with mohair, and I used Blue Sky, I think it's called Blue Sky Ultra, and I can't remember the name of this colorway. It's this glorious, this is actually pretty true to the color. I will try to remember to add that so that you can know what colorway I used. And then I held it with some mohair that I think I bought Valley Yarns mohair in this kind of beige tone. It's actually right here. And this is pretty true to the color too. It's so lovely. I don't want to call it beige, that sounds sad. It's kind of golden. I'm using it with something else that I'll tell you about later, right now. So here's the FELIX cardigan. I will stand up. It's a little bit boxy. It has these lovely details here that are raglan. That's where the raglan increases are, and with the increase you do I think it's a yarn over maybe, I can't remember, to get this eyelet lace effect. It is such a simple, lovely design. The neckline is a little larger. I ignored any instructions for the arms. I just kind of tried them on as I went and didn't even do any decreases. I made a mistake at some point. I believe when I separated for the sleeves, I did not have enough stitches. And so I think I added a couple extra. I didn't do any decreases here. I can't remember if the pattern calls for that. I've started getting a little, like, if I think I know what I want to do, I get to a certain point in a pattern and I just kind of do what I want. And I wanted a slightly cropped, which it is. Yes, Willow. We'll call it cropped. Sweater that was kind of boxy. I'm a smaller person, and I have a bunch of sweaters that are roomier, and so I think for my frame I do look better in a shorter sweater a lot of the time. Yeah, so a little bit of ribbing for the sleeves, a little bit of ribbing for the bottom. It was super quick, and I really love it. I think it's going to go great with lots of things. I tend to mostly wear jeans or jeans. So there we go. Yeah, so Amy Christophers, great sweater. It is so soft. I was tempted not to use the mohair because I just love this color so much, and I didn't want anything kind of changing it, but then I really love the marled effect. And I think because it's boxier and it's a looser knit, that it's not as hot as I thought it would be. It's actually, it's feeling very comfortable. So yeah, FELIX sweater. my next finished object is very exciting to me. This is the first thing I have knit for my dear husband, who is such a knit-worthy person and such a great supporter of my knitting. He also happens to be incredibly particular about garments, and so I have been scared to knit him a sweater and him a pair of socks. And it's the first pair of socks that I have knit. And don't tell him, but honestly, they were meant for me. And I realized they were a little bit big, so I pretended that I was making them for him. Shh. I knit these out of Patton's Croy, and I think the blue heather colorway. It's pretty obvious if you look up the Patton's Croy. Now, this is my first pair of socks, and I learned a lot, and they're larger than I would want them to be, but they fit him pretty well. And I just took these out of the dryer. Yes, washable, dryable, and they look great. He has worn them a lot. Now, whether he has worn them a lot to make me happy, or he's worn them a lot because they're so comfy, I don't know. But isn't that a cute sock? I knit the first one, and I knit most of the second one and realized that they didn't quite match. The stitch count was the same. All I can think of is that I was knitting the second one, kind of finishing it here and there, and I even knit some during a meeting at school, and I don't know, my stitches were just a little looser on the second one. And I think also because I'm using 9-inch circulars, it's even more finicky when you're changing how you're knitting. Like, it's just, I don't know, using those needles are it's a little more sensitive, I think, to how you're knitting. So yes, I finished these maybe before I finished these, definitely before I finished these, I ordered some sock yarn. Some more self-striping sock yarn. Well, I did, because I showed you that from Tiny Human Knits in my last episode. And I love that yarn, and I just haven't cast it on yet for socks, but in the meantime, because that yarn is so special, I wanted it for myself, and my stepdaughter really wanted a pair of socks, so I ordered some yarn online. Now, it was a kind of a rough day. I'm not going to go into why. So I definitely was doing a little bit of online retail therapy, which I do not recommend. But if you're buying on sale, inexpensive self-striping sock yarn, and that is what you're buying, and it's not like, you know, it could be a lot worse, I suppose. So I went to, I can't remember the website, but I bought this beautiful sack of paint box self-striping yarn. This is inexpensive yarn. It is lovely. I've seen some socks knitted up in this. I think it was definitely cheaper than my Patton's Croy. Pretty sure. And I asked my stepdaughter which color she wanted. She picked a few, and I picked for her one of her choices, and I just cast it on, and I am very close to being done. So here we go. So yeah, now we're on to works in progress, I guess. Here's the first one. Super cute. With my husband's sock, I noticed that the foot, even though it had the same stitch count, needed to be more loose on my foot. And because apparently my foot is the, you know, the baseline for me. And my stepdaughter has really tiny feet. Was after turning the heel, I just kept decreasing until it was a few stitches smaller than the leg. And then she tried it on, and I realized I should have just made the leg fewer stitches as well, but whatever. I should say the pattern I use. It's really just a very basic vanilla sock, and it is a free pattern, so I can show you this crumpled up paper. The Unapologetic Knitter, my favorite vanilla socks. Megan Schmaltz is her name. I got this, I downloaded it on Ravelry, it was free. It is really an excellent first sock pattern. I used that for my husband's socks, and I used that for my daughter's socks. The other thing I did with these socks, after reading a little bit about knitting socks, is I added So I used a different yarn for the top. And look at, here's the second one. I used some of my own hand-dyed yarn, and it happens to be, I believe it's Knit Picks Hawthorn. No, Knit Picks, not Hawthorn, Stroll probably, or Felici. I'm not really sure, I'm so sorry. It's superwash with some nylon. It's a sock yarn. And it's this beautiful lavender color, and it kind of coordinates in a gorgeous way with her socks. So I read about making socks warmer and making socks more sturdy, and one way to do that is to hold for the heel and the toe, you hold your sock yarn with some mohair, which totally makes sense to me. Of course it would make your toesies really nice and cozy, and it just makes the heel that much sturdier. So that's exciting, and I often have little bits and bobs of mohair left over, and I often use mohair in a more neutral color because I'm trying to like mix it up with something else. So I just think that's great. And then these two together make this gorgeous, almost golden, it just looks really golden next to the purple. So that's really exciting. Anyway, so this, I believe, this colorway, somewhere, is, oh yeah, Love Crafts is the website. Sorry, I am all over the place. It's Paintbox Yarns. I'm trying to find the name of the color. Oh, it's Passion. And it's their Fair Isle self-striping. So they have self-striping where you just have your standard stripes. But this is called Fair Isle because you've got your stripes, and then you have stripes of pattern. This could have been done today, but I made a mistake and I had to rip back some of it. So I think I will be trying to finish these this evening or tomorrow for Amelia. So, work in progress number 1. And let me take a little break to talk about my earrings. If you are one of my students, and I have some students who watch this, hi guys. You know that one of my favorite accessory and one of my favorite things is earrings, and I like them big and I like them bold and I like them fun. And these are hand crocheted hearts. I love hearts, and I love crafts, and I love earrings, and they're hand crocheted by a woman named Yasmin or Yasmin, not totally sure. But designed by Yasmin. You can find her on Instagram, and you can find her on... Hi, honey.
Hey.
I'm just podcasting.
Okay.
Just ignore me. Doo, 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 doo. And I'm back. So I really think these are a lot of fun. I kind of want to get a pair that's just kind of round. And maybe in a more neutral color too, so I can wear it with more things. This is not, I wouldn't necessarily choose these two to go together, because this is kind of pretty out there. I'd pick up, blue or purple or a different neutral color. But anyway, she had recently had an interview on a podcast I listened to called Collage Creative. With Amy Small, who is a yarn designer, dyer lady. And I love her podcast. She interviews fibery people. And it was such a delightful interview. And I had seen her designs before. Yasmin, Designs by Yasmin. I think that's what it is. And I loved her earrings. And after listening to that podcast, I was driving home. I did not shop in my car because that would be ridiculous. But I pulled in and I ordered a pair of earrings right away because I like supporting artists, especially when they're awesome and really nice, good people. So there we go. They're really fun, and you should buy some earrings. If you don't wear earrings, buy them for someone else. Like me, even. That'd be fine. Okay, so back to works in progress. I have made some progress on my Bright Feather sweater by Jen Steingass of Knit Love Wool. Take another sip of water. Love this. Talked about it lots. You know, if you want to hear more details, just go back to another podcast episode, but I will show you where we are here. I tried it on. If you want to see it on me, you can look at my Instagram feed. This is an exquisite sweater, and it fits me. And it just fits me the right way. I mean, I can handle lots of different kinds of fits, but I love the way this fits me. It fits me really well. It's not too baggy, it's not too tight, and I have gotten to a place with my stranded knitting where it's not pulling in and making me feel like I need to stop going to the gym, you know? I am on the ribbing at the bottom. I started it a little on the early side, which I don't always intend to do. I get impatient, which doesn't make any sense because it takes longer to knit ribbing. Whatever. And then I'm going to zip through the sleeves. I need to finish this before it's too warm. Just saw the holes in my sweater. Let's ignore that. I need to finish this before it's too warm. I mean, come on, Kelly, pull it together. So, that is living in my boring canvas bag. Actually, it's not totally boring. It's a loopy mango bag. What am I talking about? Okay. So then, I am making a sweater for my dear, beloved niecelet. Okay, she's my niece, but she's tiny, so I'm calling her a niecelet. I mean, she's actually just the perfect size, but she's just young. She's just a little more than 3 months old. I am making a Tin Can Knits, the Tin Can Knits FLAX, which I feel like if you haven't heard of that sweater, where have you been? It is free. It's a Tin Can Knits pattern, and their patterns are amazing. And it's just a basic raglan sweater. The only thing that's not basic about it is there's a ridge on each sleeve of purl stitches, and you don't have to do those, obviously, if you don't want to, and I'm not, mostly because the yarn I'm using is really busy, and I just feel like it needs to be pared down. So I am using, I had it here because I don't remember the name of it because it's kind of funky. I'm using this, and it is like, it's called ADRIAFIL yarn. The best laid plans, isn't that something like that? So, ADRIAFIL. I'll put it down there. Self-striping, DK weight yarn. Superwash, because that's essential with babies. And still looking for it because I can't help myself. Anyway, what's really fun about it is it's self-striping, and because I'm making such a small item, this sweater in the front looks one way. Can you handle it? And then you turn it around. Like, let's say you're like, oh, I really want to be crazy, like wild, and you turn it around and, you know, still wild, but a little less so. It's got a little bit of the yellow from the other side. So hold on one second. So that is, I have separated for the sleeves already. See, the sleeves are, I'm gonna hold it this way because it's my favorite. Sleeves are here. Okay. Knitting the body, holding it, I'm moving it around so much you can't even see it. And it's kind of wild. I'm thinking when I'm done, I might use duplicate stitch to knit a solid color heart on it. Hold on a second. computer was low, and I don't know. Just to kind of also calm it down, but also I just love hearts. Super cute. I could be done with this. I mean, I could be done with this tonight probably, but I'm trying to get some other things done, and honestly, it's not gonna fit her for a little while, so I don't need to rush. I can just enjoy it. And I think when I'm done, I'll even have enough to make her some matching leg warmers. So cute. Anyway, so this is my... I can't believe I lost the label for the yarn. It just makes me mad. That's okay. Tin Can Knits, flax sweater, in self-striping. Regia, I'm raging because I can't think of the name. Yarn. Okay. What's next? Bright Feather, Tin Can Knits, Vanilla Socks. Oh, okay. I can talk about, so, it's crazy. I'm all over the place. I meant to talk about the yarn I bought all at once. The sock yarn. I got the sock yarn. And then I went to Montreal last week for a few days with some girlfriends and my sister, who's a girlfriend too. And I went to a yarn store. Espace Tricot. And I did not see Lisa or Melissa. In fact, I think I saw Melissa on the street on my way to the store. I swear to God. She was ducking into a little restaurant on the same street, somewhere close to David's Tea. And I almost ran after her, but she was probably hungry and wanted to just eat lunch. And so, anyway, I got this really cute little charm that has the Kitchener directions on the back, because I often forget those. I mean, I always have to look at them. I'm not at the place yet where I just know how to do it. So I got that. I've already used it. And I got a ball of yarn. And again, this yarn was Canadian. I thought, you know, I want to buy yarn. I probably can buy this in the States, but whatever. And I already started knitting socks with it because I wanted to. But I'm actually going to rip this out because I think I want to just knit a different design. Like, I want to do something fun and maybe have some ribbing on this or another kind of pattern. And I don't have the label for this, but I am going to find it and tell you about it. It is sock yarn. And it is, don't you just love these colors? Again, it's amazing. So yeah, I knit this on our way back from Montreal in a horrible, horrible snowstorm. I had gotten to the point in my other socks. Oh, you know what? I didn't have the yarn for the heel, and so I couldn't keep knitting Amelia's socks. So I had to knit something else in the car, and I just did this, and now I'm gonna probably take it out, but whatever. Again, I am using tiny 9-inch circulars. These are my Chow Goos, and I think these are size 0. And let me tell you, I need to go to a 00. I just think they should maybe be even tighter. I think that would be ideal. It's kind of annoying. Okay. In other news, so that's the yarn I bought in Montreal and the cute little tag I bought in Montreal. And I showed you the sock yarn, the paint box sock yarn. And I am not someone who shops a lot, and I don't want to be hoarding yarn. It's just happened lately. Okay, so I got a. This is for gifts, so I think it's just fine. I don't need to feel bad. So I bought some wool of the Andes. And if you are one of my students and you're watching this, don't tell Mrs. Q about this. Her birthday, her 50th birthday was this month. One of my, we call each other teaching sisters. And I am going to knit her slippers. She asked me to knit her slippers, so what am I going to do? For her birthday. Or her party's later in March. So here we are. I'm probably going to knit mostly them in this, it's Wool of the Andes bulky weight. This is Mineral Heather. And either like some color work in the Fjord Heather, or I haven't decided. I got the pattern. I ordered a couple of my son is FaceTiming me, of course. I love my children. And I'm actually glad they FaceTimed me from a ski lift, because it's really sweet. So yeah, slippers for Mrs. Q, my teacher sister. Kids, do not tell her. It's a surprise, even though she asked for them. I got that from Knit Picks. I also got a huge bag of Knit Picks Hawthorne fingering weight yarn for my sister-in-law, because I'm going to dye yarn for her. I'm going to? I did. I dyed yarn for her, and I am going to turn this around to show you. So Kat, it's still wet. It's not going to look exactly like this, and you know, you can choose to ignore this. Maybe you'll watch the episode after I send you the yarn. It's got to be dried first. I'm probably actually going to drive the yarn to you and visit you and Miro and my brother. So here we go. I'm going to turn the computer. And there we go. Here are our yarns. Still dripping wet. We've got this. This looks more pink than it is. It's actually a deeper color, and it's kind of more of a, I would call it a mulberry or a boysenberry. It looks very pink in here. It is not that pink. We've got this. This is definitely a red, and I would call it an almost a cayenne, and the end is a deeper, darker red. The colors are not great. This is a minty green, and it's showing up really true to color on my screen. It's a tonal. It doesn't have any speckles, but it does have some darker pops of a minty green. And I have it on the Hawthorne base, the FELIX base, and also a mohair base. And FELIX, so I'll show you the difference. Maybe you can't even hear me when I'm over here. I'll show you the difference. So this is the other color I dyed. And this is a dark green with some speckles and pops of like it's showing up kind of yellow, but the color did break a little and become yellow, but like of a dark brown, okay? It is I would call it a piney / forest green. And I dyed this on 2 different bases. They're both sock yarns. This is the Knit Picks FELIX. It's, I don't know how to describe it. They both have plies, but the Hawthorne has more distinct ply to it. There's the Hawthorne, and here's the FELIX. It just looks soft. And the FELIX is merino, and I don't know if it's nylon. Hold on, let me look. I can just move this back. Beep, 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 beep. So the Hawthorne FELIX is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. Hawthorne is 80% superwash fine Highland wool, 20% polyamide. The difference in the way they look is that the FELIX looks a little more smooth. I think it feels slightly softer, but I also think, and that's probably the merino talking, but I also think it might not wear as well. And I prefer the way the hawthorn looks because I do prefer a little more of a woolly look to my yarn, even though superwash merinos are really fun to dye. Superwash in general is more fun to dye. I don't know. I don't know that much about it, so someone else would have a better way to describe the difference, and probably the KnitPicks website would be a good option if you're confused about that. So the greens, the minty green and the darker foresty green with the speckles, those I have plans for. I have plans for a couple sweaters now, and which one I'm going to cast on first, not sure. Haven't purchased either of the patterns. The sun is now coming down, so it's going to wash out things a little bit. The first pattern that I'm thinking of, I already told you about. It's the Rosier pullover. Oh, my nose is itchy every time I podcast. I don't know why. The other pattern that I am dying to cast on is MIDORI HIROSE of Knit Cafe. I want to say Knit Cafe Midori, and she designed the ranunculus, the pink sweater with the lace. Oh my gosh. I have to back up a little. The sun's getting too intense. Here it is. Can you even? So that is not embroidery, though it looks a lot like it's embroidered. It is a flower motif that is actually weaving between the stitches while you're knitting. So you're actually weaving in between stitches, and it is a traditional Estonian technique called ruusimin, which means rose. And it just looks really cool. The other pattern I had mentioned was the Rosier sweater. So that one, I just love it, and I have everything I would need to make it. The Rosier pattern, I also haven't purchased, but I'm gonna look it up to remind you. You know what? I'm a real sucker for anything with a botanical motif around the yoke. Just every sweater I see like that does it for me. I'm going to sit here until the sun goes down, and then I will just stop. So back to the Rosier by PAULE. I don't know how to say her name. Sorry. TB. And here's a close-up of the, oh my gosh, the yoke on that is just astounding. I love it. So I had already dyed some yarn for that, and this will be the main color. And then the yoke has leafy border with flowers here, and then another leafy border. So this, and I don't know, this might be a little too much for me for the flower. And then the dark green and the mint green, I think, is the borders. That's a lot of color. But I think I want to do it. Especially since if I knit the other sweater at the same time, I'm going to use deeper, darker, more mellow colors for that one. So I think that's what's going to be happening. And the hot pink, will just be, I might even, maybe I'll throw some mohair in there so it mellows it out a little. That could be fun. I think that's really all I have for you, which is great because the sun is not my friend right now. So I am going to sign off. I hope you have a fabulous weekend. And I hope you're having a great time knitting.